Yeah. We're golden. Sweet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I tried. I could not.
We're golden, it sounds. Oh, we ready, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Ready?
I'm gonna join the Zoom as well, okay?
Absolutely.
The beeping I can't fix right now because that's the UPS and we would have to replace that to actually fix that beeping or unplug it, which I don't want to unplug anything right now.
Okay. We will act like it's not there.
Yeah.
We start getting calls from the other people on YouTube, we'll know.
Sir.
You are ready? I think so. We good? Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and we'll begin by asking Supervisor Will Warren to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. We'll move into our next item of business, call to the public. And I may remind you that you have 3 minutes to share what you want to share with us, please. State your name and your title.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Erica Carrasco. I am the Greene County Treasurer for the Democratic Party. Initially, we were instructed to not communicate with the board through email in regards to our issue that's on the agenda today. So we knew that we were going to have to present the board a letter this morning in regards to an issue that we needed to bring to your attention prior to your decision in regards to the matter. I'm sorry, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once you read the letter, I just want to let you know that everything inside the letter is factual. It's also documented information of our process of getting here today from our last board meeting that we had with you all. And I think another issue that they wanted me to make sure that I brought up was that, and if this might possibly need to go to a different, we might have to look into a different way to resolve the issue other than just with the board. And we're open to that also, but we are also open for dialogue. So if you could just read the letter, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it-
Question.
No, I was just going to mention, is there anybody else out there that wants to call to the public?
Good morning, and thank you so much for letting me be here today and talk. This is the American system, which is fabulous, and I really appreciate it. I'm Susan Breen. I'm the chair of the Greene County Democrats and have been so for the past 18 years. Some of you may have seen the news and know that on July 16th, our state chair, Robert Branscombe, was removed by over a two-thirds vote of the entire state committee membership due to many factors. And so now we have an acting chair who is Kim Corey. And I have a letter from her about this situation, and I'd like to
Excuse
give.
me, Susan, you might want
You
to,
want?
let go of the mic and just bend it over. That way it won't be.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Austin. Okay, so I'd like to just give you this letter and then I'm done talking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else out there?
Good morning, board.
Morning.
Board Chair Eric Ellison. We went, I guess I'll just talk about my arm because everybody's gonna want to know, right?
Yes, Phil, so.
Okay, you just should have seen the other guy. That's all I'm gonna say. But no, I'll be out for a little bit. but I'm not out of the office. I'm still working. You know, I come to work and there's handicap signs on my office, on my parking spot. It says handicap sheriff only. I mean, these guys, telling you. I mean, really feel loved. But so I went to the conference, the Law Enforcement Summit last week after my surgery, and they had the Sheriff's Association had something really, really neat for county employees. And I'm going to give you guys a copy of this.
Wow.
And what this is it's called the Sheriff RX program, and it's free to all county employees, not just sheriffs. It's all county employees. And what it is, it's a free program that will pay 80% up to prescription. So if the prescription's kind of expensive and the insurance doesn't do a very good job paying it, this will pay for that prescription. It doesn't pay for all prescriptions, but it says it pays for like 80% of the prescriptions out there. And it gives a very big discounts. They're saying it's usually cheaper than what your insurance would be. So it comes with a little really simple way of signing up. It has a little barcode scanner thing. And you just follow these 4 simple steps and you're in the program. It's really that simple. And then when you want to go fill your prescription, just take the little card in and that's it. And it's a way we can give our employees a little extra benefit for being a county employee. So it's just something I thought was really neat that we could give to our county, and it's free. And I mean, nobody complains about free stuff, right? So that's just what I wanted to present that to you, and thought it would be kind of a neat thing to give the county. And what I'll do is I give Austin the stuff, and he can give it electronically to all the employees or however it works. But I trust him on doing that because he's the tech guy. Yeah, so appreciate you guys. And if you want to hear the story, it's going to be longer than 3 minutes. So it'll take a bit to tell that story. Anyways, you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
And get better.
Okay, anybody else? Hearing none, then we'll move into our next item of business, Public Health Service District.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I'd like to ask Derek or Gary, this information that we received, do you recommend that we read that prior to it? I mean, what is your recommendation?
You certainly can,
Okay,
but it's, if you want to take a recess I mean, procedurally, you can do that. You may wish to, however you want to, there's no harm in reading it before, there's no harm in reading it after.
I know in some cases, in some cases they're like, don't, you know what I mean? Don't look at it, just, let the county attorney review it, whatever. So I'm just asking that question before looking at it.
Just to be clear, we're referring to the stuff that Ms. Carrasco gave to you as opposed to the stuff that the sheriff gave to you.
You're correct. Yes. Yeah. I'm not worried about the.
Free prescriptions.
Yeah.
Um,
So we need to decide if we want to take a recess prior to that agenda item so that we could review that. I mean, that's why I mentioned that.
Okay, so what's your desire?
I think before we get to that agenda item, maybe
Okay,
previous to that agenda item.
Okay.
So anyway, just wanted to interject and ask that question. Thank you.
okay. As mentioned, we will move into our next item of business, number 2. Public Health Service District. The Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greene County Public Health Service District and will reconvene as the Board of Supervisors following the consideration of this following item, the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered. We will now reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and we'll move into our next item of business. Item number 3, Flood Control District. The Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greene County Flood Control District and will reconvene as the Board of Supervisors following consideration of this item, consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, so ordered. We will now reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and we'll move into our next item of business. Gary Griffith, County Attorney, and Bianca Castaneda, Elections Director.
Mr. Chairman, do you think we could take a 5-minute recess to review some of this other material? Would that be acceptable?
Absolutely. Are you in favor of that, too, Will?
I'm in favor of that.
Okay. We're
5 minutes probably.
5-minute recess.
Okay.
We'll turn back into our meeting. And we are on item number 4, and it's a presentation and discussion. County Attorney advice to the board regarding the board's duties with respect to appointment of Democratic Party precinct committeemen. The floor is yours, Gary.
All right, thank you. So the board, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 meetings ago, Chairman Gomez asked me to look into this matter for the board. Because we have basically 2 factions that are claiming chairpersonship of the Democrat Party. So I've done some research into that. Gotten a copy of the minutes of the meetings of the various executive committee meetings that they've had, and also the general membership meetings that they've had, and reviewed them. I've reviewed the bylaws. I've also reviewed case law that's relevant. There's some case law that's relevant on this question. Also reviewed Robert's Rules of Order, which have been adopted as the procedural rules for the Greeley County Democratic Party. Let me first talk about the case that talks about. So there was actually a similar situation where the Libertarian Party of Arizona had 2 factions. One faction was claiming the rightful chairpersonship, and the other faction was claiming the rightful chairpersonship. And this went.
You move your mic closer to you, sir.
Sorry, and this case went to the Arizona Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals looked at it. And what they said was that there's a statutory method for choosing the chair of a party. And they looked into why is there a statutory method? Because it's a political party. For the most part, we try to stay out of governance of political parties. That should be left to the party. But they said that there's a public purpose in having a certain way that it needs to be done, and making sure that that way that it's done is followed. And that public purpose is so that the other officials in the county and the state know who they need to deal with. So there are statutory duties that you have as a board of supervisors that include dealing with the chair of the Democrat Party and the chair of the Republican Party. So you have to know who that chair is. And so in order to know who that chair is, they put a process in place that they have to follow that process so that you know who the chair is. And the person that's chosen in that process, you have the safety to assume that person is the person that you need to deal with. That statutory process involves setting a meeting in late December or early January, where all of the elected PCs, so that's precinct committee people, all the elected PCs show up at that meeting and they vote and determine who their chair is going to be. At that same meeting, they choose their first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, treasurer. And so that's what the statute tells us to do. The statute doesn't have any guidance as to removing a chair, like how to do that. It just doesn't say. There is other case law that says, though, that a party has a right of self-governance that comes from freedom of association under the Constitution. So a party has a right to govern themselves. They have a right to set forth the system where they can remove somebody from office, who's their chair. So there is a right for a party to do that, even though the statute doesn't set for that process. In the Greeley County Democrats, that's done through their bylaws. So the Greeley County Democrat Party has a set of bylaws, and those bylaws say how they can remove their chair or remove other officers within their organization. I did a lot of research into this, so you can see that it's a 10-page long opinion on this. So just to be clear, who I talked to and who I didn't, I've not actually talked to Susan Breen about this at all. So who I talked to is the relevant person who could tell me whether the minutes that I had received are the correct minutes, and got me the minutes from the meetings. And that was the secretary. So the secretary is the person that I met with, because they're the person that has the authority to give me the meeting minutes. Because those are relevant, because I need to look at the meeting minutes and look at them in light of what the bylaws are. And I also confirm the bylaws with the secretary. So going through the bylaws, the process of removing an officer, including the chair, is you need a 2/3 vote. Now, under the Greenlee County Democrats bylaws, it's a 5-person executive committee. And that is the chair, the first chair, the second, sorry, the chair, the first vice chair, the second vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. And those are the 5 members of that executive committee. In order to get a 2/3 vote, it really means a 4/5 vote, because that's when you have a 5-person committee and you have to have 2/3 vote, it's 4/5. The minutes that we were given, and these were the minutes given to Ms. Castaneda, purporting to have removed the chair, were minutes from 2 different meetings. One was the March 26th meeting, which was a meeting of members of the executive committee of the Greenlee County Democrats. At that meeting, only 3 of the members of the executive committee were there. The treasurer, sorry, the secretary was not there, and also the chair was not there. So because only 3 members showed up, that was not possible for them to have gotten the 4/5 vote. The people that voted at that meeting were the first vice chair, the second vice chair, and the treasurer. And they did vote to remove Ms. Breen. I don't believe this was done in any kind of maliciousness or anything like that. I believe that at that point, they believed that another person who's under the Democrat Party state bylaws, each county is supposed to choose something called an equity chair. And so there's an equity chair that the Greenlee County Democrats chose, but that equity chair is not a member of the executive committee according to the Greenlee County bylaws. So they had 4 people there. I think they believed that they had 4 out of 5, but really they only had 3 out of 5 present because the equity chair is not actually on the executive committee. And in fact, it's not even supposed to show up for executive committee meetings, because under the bylaws, only members of the executive committee are allowed to be present at an executive committee meeting. So at that meeting, there were only 3 votes when you need 4. The other time where there was a purported removal was at the April 24th regularly scheduled meeting. Under the Greenlee County bylaws, they're supposed to have regularly scheduled meetings, and they did have a regularly scheduled meeting. Now, I researched this because there was some question as to whether that meeting was supposed to occur, because Ms. Breen supposedly had a death in the family, which was a good reason for her to cancel that meeting. And so I believe she tried to cancel that meeting, and that's what I heard, and that the meeting went forward without her. I researched that, and it looks like under Robert's Rules of Order, you can't cancel a regularly scheduled meeting. And so that meeting could have gone forward without her, which it did. And it was appropriately chaired by the right person, which is the first vice chair. What they did not have at that meeting is a quorum. The Greenlee County bylaws have a requirement for a quorum that requires 3 members of the executive committee to be present, plus 3 additional PCs. And they did not have that. They had 3 executive committee members and 1 additional PC. So they didn't have enough to reach a quorum at that meeting. So there was no quorum when they voted to remove Ms. Breen at that meeting. Also, under the Greenlee County bylaws, if there's a vacancy, if there is a vacancy, then it can be filled by the full membership. So all the PCs. There has to be proper notice. You have to give 20 days notice, and then you vote on it. But it says very clearly you have to have a quorum present when you do that vote. So at that meeting, so even assuming, just arguendo, that there was a vacancy in the chairmanship, it couldn't have been filled at that meeting because there was no quorum. So Ms. Camacho couldn't, even if Ms. Breen isn't the chairman, Ms. Camacho couldn't be the chairman now because she was elected as chairman at a meeting where there was no quorum. Under Robert's Rules of Order, and this is a very well understood concept of parliamentary procedure, and pretty much all parliamentary rules say that if you don't have a quorum present, everything you do is null and void. And so if you have a meeting and you don't have a quorum present, you can't do anything except for there's a couple things. You can take measures to get a quorum there, so you can send out, you know, whoever to go get people, or you can adjourn. So those are the two things you can do at a meeting with no quorum. At this meeting, there was no quorum, so they could not take any action. So they not only could they not remove Ms. Breen, but they could not install Ms. Camacho to replace Ms. Breen. So there was not a ability to go forward with business at that point. So those are the 2 minutes that we've been given as a county to our clerk of the Board of Supervisors to say that there's been a change in the chairmanship. Okay, so on the face of those, both of those, looking at it and looking at the bylaws, there's been no change. The statutory process is there so that we have certainty. The person chosen at that statutory meeting, the Board of Supervisors and also the recorder and everybody else that has statutory duties to interact with the chair of a party, they have a right to rely on the results of that meeting unless they're clearly convinced that there's been a change. What we've been given are minutes that on both of those minutes, it's clear that they didn't have the numbers present to make that kind of a decision. That having been said, we have a right then to go back to who was chosen in that January meeting that the statute tells us to have. In that January meeting that the statute tells us to have, that January meeting, and elected PCs are the only people who can vote at that, they chose Susan Breen. And so that's the information we have. The other information that just the numbers were not there to make a change. Now, that's not to say that whatever the concerns of those other individuals are, they're not valid concerns. I don't know if Ms. Breen has committed some sort of breach of fiduciary duty or committed some sort of financial misconduct or something like that. That may be true, or it may not be true. I don't know. All I know is, you know, at this point, what I've been asked to research is who is the chair. And so that's what I researched, is who is the chair based on the meetings that were held, the minutes of those meetings, and the laws and the case law and the bylaws and the Robert's Rules of Orders. So that's what I went through and researched. So based on that, my recommendation to the board is that the board go forward and do what its statutory duty, which is the board's been given a slate of PC nominees to approve. And they've been given a slate of PC nominees by Susan Breen, who I believe at this point is still the chair, based on the research that I've done. And I'm not taking sides. I didn't meet with Ms. Camacho, who's claiming to be the chair, and I haven't met with Susan Breen, who's claiming to be the chair. I met with the secretary, who's the person that has those minutes and can confirm those minutes. So that's who I met with. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Gary.
In regards to this?
No, I think that was outlined very well. Thank you. Thank you for all that effort. That was a lot.
Yeah, I echo those comments. I mean, this is a 10-page chronological, in detail. And that's actually what we were after. We were wanting to know who actually was the chair based on what we've been asked but like you said, everything else was irrelevant because we don't know, we don't have any facts on anything else besides what we wanted to know was who is the current chair. So thank you for your time and efforts on this, Gary. And with that said, we will move into our next item of business. We move into item B. And discussion and consideration of approval of regarding the appointments for the Democratic Precinct Committeemen to fill vacancies. R. Reyes, Precinct number 5, York and Sheldon, and S. Lundin, Precinct number 3, Clifton.
Well, I move that we approve of the appointments for the Democratic Precinct Committeemen to fill vacancies. R. Reyes in Precinct number 5, York Sheldon, and S. Lundin, Precinct number 3, Clifton.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made a second. Is there any further discussion? There none, I call for vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, so ordered.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into our next item of business. Justine Hodin, Fair Director. Welcome.
Welcome, Justine.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. Okay, so going into the fairgrounds, I began looking at ways that we can smooth processes while streamlining some of our operations. And I feel an area that we can improve on is surrounding our liquor license at the fairgrounds. A few problems that we have are that, one, we don't man our grounds 24/7, and outside alcohol is being brought onto the premises, which isn't in compliance with Arizona state liquor laws. Because we hold the liquor license, this only allows for us to bring and sell liquor on the fairgrounds. And another problem is over the past few years, we have taken a financial loss by offering bar services during the county fair. A little bit of a financial breakdown on the 2024 fair is we paid $2,345 to purchase liquor, $2,160 to staff the bar, and that was at minimum wage. Personally, I would like probably county employees to be over an area like that, which I would assume that cost would increase at the wage that we pay them. The revenue that we brought in from the bar is $4,445. So you can see that we took a loss there. And this does not include the costs associated with training the bar staff on basic Title IV, so how to handle certain situations and when to recognize on when to stop serving. So, and this also does not include the hiring process. If we do hire on outside employees and working with the distributors to purchase the alcohol. I would like to propose that we surrender our liquor license. This would allow for private parties renting our facilities to bring alcohol onto the premises. And I know that bar services are a popular amenity. So we would allow a third party to offer the services during the county fair. Some advantages to doing this, it would be that we would require insurance with alcohol coverage, which offers us double coverage and takes off some of that. It would essentially reduce our liability. And of course, like we would not take that financial loss every year. Those who are eligible for applying for a special event liquor license is under Series 15 are a government agency, any nonprofit organization or charity group. Those who currently hold the liquor licenses in Arizona, actually. So any of the bars, they can add an extension onto their license, and that would allow them at no cost to come serve at the bar. If for some reason, we would obviously keep it in Greenlee County, offer it to those. If we cannot get someone in Greenlee County, I have checked, and let's say a bar out of Graham County wants to come and run, they can have that extension put into any part of Arizona. So that kind of helps. So some of those terms is that we would go into contract with these third parties, which does not allow us to lose total control over the bar. So we can put that, if we see that they're over serving, we can, close it down or, require some supervision. We can require that they bring in security, which obviously would give us extra security. So I like that we wouldn't lose total control over those services. And depending on how this works out, another thing that we can do as an alternative is we can apply as a government agency for a special permit, and we can still run bar services, and we can apply for up to 10 days per year. So, and the fair, we've only been selling for 2 days. So I think we would be good. And if we picked up any future events, we'd still have some room to add those services. So that's all I have. I looked into some history as to why we held a liquor license. And I think just historically, it made sense. It was something that counties could pick up, and it was a way to make money. I think as time has passed, that has changed. Minimum wage has increased, the cost of alcohol has increased, And I just don't feel that that's, you know, we operate as for community amenities, not bar services. So I would like to surrender our liquor license.
Thank you, Christine. That
Questions?
was very detailed. Anyone have a question on this?
Well, I just had a statement. No, I think it's a great idea to allow, you know, let people that want to come in there to hopefully, you know, nonprofit and or a charity agency that wants to be able to run this. I know that I've noticed the Lions Club, you know, up in Morenci, they've ran, you know, beer garden or whatever. So I think that's a great opportunity for them to do that and handle that. I don't like to do anything that loses the county money. So that obviously is a big one. So no, I think that's a great move and will allow other, you know, community organizations to be able to take that over and hopefully raise funds for them.
Yeah, and so we, I was talking with Austin, and what we would likely do is just put out an ROI to get, you know, see who's interested in doing it, and we would be the ones to select who would pick it up. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for some of those groups to make money. So
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. You said by letting the liquor license go, that other parties would be able to bring liquor onto the fairgrounds,
yeah,
like for a wedding or for a activity or whatever.
yes.
And that would, and as it is right now, they're not able to do that, correct?
Correct. So they're not able to, and on our application, I was taking a look at it, and we do have them select whether or not those services are going to be. So right now, the way it's set up is that if they are wanting alcohol on, you know, during their event, that would require us to hire someone on to run the bar, and we would have to coordinate with them on what alcohol they would like for us to serve. We'd have to get with the vendor, purchase it, and the problem that we run into there is that if they don't drink all the alcohol that they have requested, we take that loss as well because we can't sell it to them. We can't do anything unless, and we can't hold on to it if this event is in October and our fair is not till the following September. The alcohol would likely go bad, so we'd have to just discard it at
Like,
that
be
point.
much more convenient, better.
Yeah.
My second question is, the fair is just around the corner.
Yes.
Do you have plans to have this ROI out and a taker by then, or what are your thoughts within the next 8 weeks?
Yeah, so I've already mocked one up. I sent it over to Austin for review. We wanted to put it through you guys first to make sure that you were okay or not okay with it. And so we're kind of prepped for the next step already to put it out.
I think it's a great idea. I echo Mr. Campbell, Supervisor Campbell, but I'm just wondering if are you going to give up the license within the next 8 weeks? And if you do, will there be no liquor at the next fair? If
We can't have that happen.
Yeah, we can't have that happen.
I'm
Not
not
in my
a-
first year.
I'm not a drinker, but
I've never had a beer at the fairgrounds, but I know that there are people that really count on
that's
that.
my
especially for the day.
question to you. Do you have a plan B or plan Bravo in case the ROI does not work out within the next 8 weeks?
Yeah, so one, we can apply for a special permit. I've talked with someone who sits on the board, and what they've pretty much said is that they require it be in 10 days before. If they said if it comes in the day before the event, they'll still approve it. So those would be some of our alternatives. Hopefully we don't have to go that route though. We can hopefully
Good.
find someone to come in.
So there is a plan in place if it doesn't work out, because 8 weeks is pretty fast the way my weeks are going.
Mine-
Here we are we'll be in Friday already. So as long as there's preparation there, and again, I'm not pushing for the liquor, but as Ron mentions, I know that's an option for people when they're there.
Mhm.
So just wanted to ask that question.
I think the band might require it, you know, I mean, they might get people on the dance floor.
Yes.
I have a question, Christina, and you might have mentioned it, but you say that other bars can apply to do the selling and so on and so forth. Now, does that include stores that sell liquor?
You know,
Can they-
I think it probably depends on what type of liquor license that they hold. So there's there's different series of licenses, and we would just have to look into which one that they have and if that's an option. I know that the bars, I really only looked into the bars and
Cause you
that,
mentioned bars, and I was just wondering, some little mom and pop shop that does sell liquor, they might be interested in maybe making a few bucks if, does it open it to them too? So I don't know, you might want to look into that
Yeah.
too, because somebody might want to apply.
yes, I can look into
Okay.
that.
Anything else?
It's just a question. So it says discussion action. So do we word this motion to this, to approve the discontinuation of the Greeley County held liquor license?
That would be-
And our alternative, and outline our alternative for going forward?
I think the critical question is simply to discontinue the ownership of the liquor license. And then give your fair director directions to pursue alternatives. And I would suggest at this point, we not tie our hands. I think the board's discussion today has given a direction that our first preference is a nonprofit.
Mhm.
But I think you could just simply, and Gary, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but simply allow the county to discontinue its liquor license.
So you don't need a motion?
You do need a
I so
motion.
move, I so move. Come on, I want to hear it.
No, I can articulate it a little better, for your guys' benefit, but with that-
Before you move on,
Yeah.
there's one thing that needs to be added here. I want to commend our fair director.
Yeah.
This is new, this is innovative. One of the hardest tasks in any organization is to take on the way it's always been done. And we've had this system in place for probably 30 years. And in her first year, she looked at this and said, this isn't working. We need to look at this differently. And that takes courage. It takes analytics, which she has put into this. And so from across the room, a big pat on her back. She took on the hard task, and I'm really impressed with the work that she's done on this. So that shouldn't go without notice.
No,
Thank
I
you.
would echo that for
Yeah.
sure. And
Absolutely.
find the next thing that we can, that's what we're here to do, right?
Yeah.
We're here to improve, yes.
Make improvements, so.
Yeah.
You know, and in a lot of places too, when they have events and they have liquor, as you mentioned, I think, you know, we've been selling it for what, $1 a beer. You know, they know that it's to try to make money, you know, could raise the price if everything else goes out the window. You could, you know, $3, $4.
Right.
Anyway.
Feel like a Cardinals game.
Let's not get to a $9 beer. Okay? Do I have to put that into this?
Okay, I
Okay.
think we're done with our discussion, so I entertain for a motion.
I move that we discontinue the Greenlee County held liquor license for the fairground, including exploring the options of contracting with a third-party vendor to provide bar services during the county fair.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made in second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, call for vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nice have it. So ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just make sure it's there for the fair.
I will.
Okay, we will move into our next item of business. Tony Hines, Public Works Facilities Fleet Manager. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Tony Hines, Facilities Manager. Last month, we went out for bid for the Loma Linda Park ball field for sprinklers and sod. We split that bid up. Sprinklers are going in as we speak right now. So we went out for bid again on the sod. I got one quote back for the sod, and that was from Peterson Landscaping. That's doing the sprinklers right now. So my recommendation would be go with Peterson Landscaping. And he's also given us a little bit of a breakdown on what type of sod between mid-iron and Tifway. He's recommending the mid-iron, basically due to the fact that we said it was a practice field, and mid-iron takes a little bit less water and a little bit less maintenance than what the Tifway does.
A little more durable.
Mhm.
Correct. Gives us a little bit more options to miss something.
Also, Tony, I don't remember what the other quotes were, you know, in the past, are we?
So this sod is more expensive than what he quoted us on our last one because he based it off of his program at 32,000 square feet. Reed went out and flew it and marked points where the grass was gonna be, and it came back at
58.5.
58.5, correct, yeah.
And I believe Peterson's was the lowest cost
Lowest cost
that we
of
chose last time.
of
Yes.
the bids together, correct? And this one, he's put in 500 yards of composting, which is gonna help us because we have a lot of caliche in that dirt. And then the grading and prepping for it, and then the sod. The mid iron and the Tifway came back at the same price, so the quote is good for either one. And we're at a total of 85,850.
Okay, and I think we had some discussion too in regards to him coming, or whoever got the quote to come and kind of educate us on, and our folks and everything. Did we follow up on
Yeah.
that?
He'll do that.
Okay.
He'll do that.
On the maintenance aspect and
Yeah,
Yeah,
timing, water timing and all
Right.
that, which is good because he's the one doing the
Yeah.
sprinkler system too.
he'll set up the sprinklers, show us what needs to be done, what to look for. He'll also give us a quote on coming out every 2 weeks and doing it himself. So either way we go, we're covered.
And this will complete that ball field?
We still have the fencing to do, but yeah.
okay,
I had the opportunity yesterday to call Dr. Randy Norton. He's the director of the experimental farm in Saffron from the University of Arizona. He also recommended mid-iron and also said that if we wanted, he would be glad to come out, look and give us any insights that he may have as well. But he talked about the same thing, durability, less water, lower maintenance. He says it greens up about a week later than the TIF products, but that's a week later. That's not much.
It has a darker green too
Yeah.
than the TIF.
So there you go.
Good.
all right. We're all gonna be TIF experts. Good, okay.
I like them.
Entertain for motion.
I'd like to move that we award the bid, the sod installation at Loma Linda Ball Field, to Peterson Landscaping for the price of
85,850.
$85,850.00.
And I'll second that.
Motion has been made in second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I call for vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's have it so ordered.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tony.
Get her
Long
done.
been awaited.
Looking forward to the ribbon cutting.
Okay, we will now go into public hearing pursuant of ARS 41-17104, adoption of the fiscal year 2025 to 2026 final budget.
Mr. Chairman,
I move that we adjourn to public hearing.
because this is a statutory required public hearing, there's a way to get into it now.
I need a second.
I second that.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we are now in public hearing.
Hmm.
Okay, gents, the floor is yours.
Actually, at this point, we simply ask the public if they have any input on the proposed final budget that's been published in the paper for 2 weeks.
Is there anyone out there have a question about our budget? Nope, hearing none.
Motion to move out and then
You
Start
can
the
just,
special
you can
session.
close public.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of public hearing. We adjourn from public hearing and we'll move into our adoption. So we're done. It's adopted now and everything without,
No,
we gotta adopt now, right?
Yeah.
We go through
Okay.
the motions right now.
Okay.
we need to move to go into a special board meeting. Because this one is statutorily required as a special board meeting as opposed to your regular board meeting. So
Have that in right here. So you can move. I don't. Did you provide?
Will,
us
it's
with
in
proof?
yes.
Motions to go into a public hearing and special board meeting?
Yep.
We did that.
Next, move on down the sheet.
Step 2. Having heard a motion, having heard from everyone who wishes to comment on the board about the proposed final budget, I move that we go into a public hearing to go into a special board meeting to consider adopting the fiscal year 2025, 2026 final budget.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered.
I move that we adjourn out of the special
No,
board.
not yet.
Oh,
We gotta do our business first.
Okay. Thank you for stopping me.
okay, floor's yours, Derek.
Thanks. I'll move through this fairly quickly. This information, most of it we've been through for the last 3 months. A lot of you are very familiar with. We'll do some summary stuff. We operate under a series of statutes that dictate not only when we have to do the budget and how we have to adopt it, but also there are limits on what we can do. Limits on revenue, limits on expenditures. This budget complies with all of the statutory limits that are imposed on county budgets and local government budgets. Guiding principle, of course, is that we still prioritize federally sourced dollars for our capital projects that are underway. We're making rapid progress now. Just a week ago, a little over a week ago, they began digging the pit to build the bedding to lay our public works foundation on. That has now been completed. We'll soon have the concrete folks out to begin preparing the foundation and floor for that building. We've also made rapid progress in Loma Linda as well as the fairgrounds on many issues, but it's all being done with formerly sourced federal dollars. We're again focusing on things that we can get done, we get moving. Last year we did a lot of planning. This year we're getting a lot of action done. Many of these projects will be finished by the end of FY26. We've still been able to put away in this budget some additional money to our capital improvement fund, which is how we fund our normal core stuff, not our one-time, one-off projects. And it continues to reflect this board approach to budgeting, that we look for capital projects that have a positive cost benefit return. We're not a profit agency, so we're not looking at return on investment per se, but we are constantly looking for more efficient ways to do the things that we do. We budgeted into the budget at least $400,000 for grants. Sometimes they pop up in the middle of the year. We don't know about them. And so at that point, we have a placeholder. So if those grants are realized, we've got a place to spend it. With budgeting laws, you cannot spend what you have not budgeted. So if you fall into some money and you didn't know about it, you may not be able to spend it. One of the themes of this budget is that our sales tax revenues have exceeded our projections. That'll play into another part of the presentation that allows us to cut some of our property tax, or at least hold our property tax even. One of the things that Renee did this year is we did an extensive review, not only of expenses. So we are dealing with a budget with about 300 different separate funds, and each of those funds have within them anywhere from 3 or 4 to several hundred numbers to review. What often happens is year to year, we pass one line item on to the next. If it doesn't appear to have changed, we just move it on. Renee did a deep dive this year and looked at both revenue and expenses and said, what are we actually spending? So one of the keys was they looked at every position and said, okay, we budgeted for 10, but we actually only have 8. And that's all we're going to be hiring is 8, whatever the case may be. And those people don't make an average, they make individual wages. So that kind of a deep dive allowed us to tighten the budget up in many ways and resulted in some savings. We will be starting the vehicle purchasing process in the next month or two. Because of the board's adoption of a broader policy, we'll be looking at every option available to us. And from lease to lease purchase to outright purchase to bids and so forth, in order to get the best bang for the county's dollar. Interest rates are an interesting thing. For years and years and years, we didn't really count interest as much of a revenue stream. As interest rates rose through the pandemic or post-pandemic era, we actually made quite a bit of money on interest rates. We're required to, the treasurer can only invest in very conservative, statutorily listed investments. She's done an outstanding job of that. But as a result, we were able to realize some profits. Interest rates are down a bit. There's a push to try and lower them more. For the moment, however, that's still a revenue source that we can count on. One guiding principle we've always lived by is we live within our means. I told you the story before of a county in Minnesota that had gone off on a congressionally designated spending for like $100 million. They were halfway into the project and that CDS spending was cut. So they were out 50 million that they'll never get back and a half finished project. We've never operated that way. We've said if we don't have it, we don't do it. And as a result, we live within our means. We have some funds reserved for emergencies. The budget has been built and slowly built over time so that we are not as vulnerable to the ups and downs of a copper economy. This board has and continues to operate in very fiscally sound, fiscally conservative. And that's not a politically conservative. That's saying we're going to spend what we have. We're not going to spend to the limit. We're going to put away some for a rainy day and make sure that even if things go south, we will be able to stay afloat. Our employees will have security and so forth. Current inflation, last numbers available, were about 2.4% nationally. In Arizona, it was about 0.5%. It's hard to translate either of those numbers directly to Green County because we have, in a sense, a very unique economy. But nevertheless, this gives an across the board raise of 3% so that every employee of the county will stay ahead of inflation nationally and otherwise. It's also making us competitive. We compete in some areas with other counties. We compete in some areas with other towns and cities, and we compete in some areas with the private sector. These wages have allowed us to pick some folks out of the private sector because of our soft benefits that maybe we wouldn't have been able to compete for a few years ago. We've also been able to make broad across the board market adjustments. You'll recall last year we put off a lot of these because there was a lot of uncertainty in our budget forecast. But we've been able to look, Austin has looked literally across just almost every position in the county and said, are we paying what the market bears on this? We are very grateful that many of our employees are loyal, and they're loyal for lots of reasons. The environment, pension, there's lots of things, but we don't want to take advantage of that loyalty when we know the market is different. I know there's executive pressure to lower the interest rate at the Fed level. The Fed's been resistant to do so. One of the biggest reasons is the volatility that we've seen in the first 6 months of the calendar year. I think that will smooth over time, and we'll start to see results of policy changes. And I think the Fed will eventually start lowering interest rates down. They're predicting now maybe the last quarter of the calendar year to lower interest rates. The target for the Fed has always been a 2% inflation rate. They're not there yet. They're hovering just, like I say, 2.5 to 3, depending on the month you look. And so as we go forward, as the economy stabilizes and it looks more predictable, we want to stay ahead with COLA adjustments so that we can keep that, so our employees aren't losing the value of their dollar. We'll also, as we look at positions, because things change over time, it'll be data driven. Austin goes through a very extensive analysis of trying to find the right comparisons, trying to match, where that competition is at, and then setting wages based on that. And he's open to adjustments. If there's a reason to do so, we just are commencing on another employee rate adjustment because of experience. And those are the things we want to take into account. We've talked before about the permanent budget adjustments, and these are reductions in our spending. You're very familiar with them. It's things like out of county tuition. It's things like having paid off our debt to our police pension programs and so forth. These result in permanent cash flow differences. In other words, the structure of our budget looks different now than it did even 5 years ago. And we're constantly looking at Justine's example today was another example of how we are encouraging and people are doing constant review to say, how can we do this better? In our own office, our staff Carolyn and Laura have been outstanding in finding ways to digitize work that was done by paper. It's a big task. They're working their way through it. But as we get to those areas, we'll realize efficiency gains at a lower cost. We want to provide the service we provide at the best possible way to do it. This is an exercise we kind of go through every year. This is our 10-year net assessed value history. You'll notice that it's remained between 450 and 500,000 during the entire last 6 years. You'll notice we took a $10 million hit on assessed value this year. These are things that are largely in our county out of our control. We don't do the assessment for most of the value you see in that number. That's centrally assessed through the Department of Revenue. There are formulas that they use to do that. But we fortunately also enjoy the highest property tax collection in the state as well. Our tax rate, as you see, will be held even this year. That is primarily because of the permanent structural expense changes, as well as better than predicted sales tax income. As rated across all of the counties, and some of the counties just barely finished up their tentative budgets last week. It was kind of a scramble. Some of them, I wonder if they're a little bit embarrassed of what they're doing, because it's really hard to find their stuff online. But you'll notice that on our primary property tax, we are third. Sometimes we are second, but usually we're third.
Keep an eye on those first two when we get to the next slide.
There you go. The deck is about to be reshuffled.
All right.
But that's a reflection of living in a county where we have a Fortune 200 world-class operation whose value is consistent year over year. This is simply a visual depiction of it, and you can tell by the length of the lines. You can sort of look up and down there and say, where do I want to live based on property taxes? And you're in a great place right here. So I still give her a hard time. My predecessor, Kay Gale, chose to go to the bottom of the chart.
So does somebody else up here. Got a house or two.
When we combine all taxes, this is our combined rate over the last 10 years. And you'll see again, it's remained fairly steady for the last 5 years. We're up a little bit this year, and that reflects, as you know, the inverse relationship of assessed value and property taxes. This is also a little bit skewed in that our flood control district saw the largest percentage raise, but it only raises $140,000, $150,000 a year. So it looks like a bigger jump than it is. In our citizens' tax bill, it will be pennies as opposed to 50 cents or $1. There's the reshuffling of the deck, and we come in number one for I don't know how many years. If we were the JD Power, like they announce on the car commercials, we'd have a dozen trophies stacked up. There is tremendous advantages to living with a corporate neighbor as good as the one we have. They are good partners to work with, but their value in having run an outstanding organization shows up in how little we pay as citizens in taxes. That's a good partnership to have. Again, depicted visually, we lead the pack. It's interesting to me, and has been for years, that Greenlee and Maricopa, the largest and the smallest, always consistently have the lowest combined tax rate.
Incredible.
It is. Now there's some things that they do that we don't. One is that they outsource some of their expenses to other special taxing districts. This board has never taken that approach, other than the public health and our flood control district. There are jail districts. There are all kinds of different districts. And what that does is basically says, we'll tax you under a different name, so our tax rate looks good, but we're still going to tax you for these other services. We've never done that. We live in a very small fiscal box, and we live there well. I'm not sure why that. I hope I didn't pick the wrong. I'm going to turn this off real quick and make sure I chose the right slide here, because I think that's an older version. Let's go to the correct one.
At UPS, which I hope is going to be replaced.
very quickly.
All right. Let's go back. And there we go. All right. This is a glimpse at our revenues by major revenue categories. This doesn't represent everything that we receive. Certainly doesn't reflect our special revenue funds. But you'll see our big hitters, our property tax, our shared sales tax revenue are our biggest contributors to our budget. And that, along with the stabilization fund, provides sort of the ballast that keeps our financial ship upright. Those are things we can count on pretty regularly. The auto BLT is pretty regular, but it's not a big contributor. Our half-cent sales tax, it taxes a different set of items and it taxes it differently. So the soda you buy at the Circle K or at the Marathon is taxed at a half cent. It's taxed under the state shared sales tax as well. But in addition to that, mining activity is taxed under the state shared sales tax, and our half-cent tax does not. Severance tax being the biggest contributor there. We receive an appropriation, and you'll see the long title there, State Appropriation in lieu of Lottery Funds. Originally, it's going back 20 years ago, we got money directly from the lottery, and it came with strings attached to it that didn't allow us to use it generally. We had to use it in very narrow ways. The state fixed that. They took their lottery money back. They gave us an appropriation in lieu of the lottery funds, and that's now we can just throw it into our general fund and use it as we need to. Oh, let's move on here. Let's try this. And we'll go through. Projected expenses. Now, these are done by groupings. This is more for analytical purposes. The details of all these expenses, of course, are down in the final budget book that each of you have. We provided copies to the public if they would like as well. But essentially, we group them in sort of function groups, if you will. So law enforcement is the biggest single consumer of our budget. That has always been, it will always be that way. And it's up 8.69%. We thought it was going to be higher. Again, back to Renee's analytics on, they have the most employees of any department of the county. Going back to the analytics on what people are actually making, and then making those wages and adjustments based on that, you see an 8.69% increase. There's been some significant shifts in that as well, away from purchasing more law enforcement equipment towards an emphasis on training. That's been an emphasis of the current sheriff's priorities, and his budget reflects that priority. Our court system, including the county attorney's office, is up about a little over 20%. Again, increases to a couple of key items. There's some wage increases in there. There's also some increases to our indigent defense and how we run that. We needed to build some more capacity there. We need to be able to keep our defense attorneys in the stable, if you will. It almost sounds like a bad reverse lawyer joke, but we're actually short on attorneys, not just in the Grand Greenlee area, but statewide. There are not enough attorneys to manage, particularly in rural areas, even the most basic functions. So we've tried to address that. You'll see the administration core function, that's elected officials. That's our assessor, treasurer, school superintendent. Those are up 16%. By the way, this also reflects the second half of, or the full implementation of raises that were given in previous years to elected officials. General services is everything else. And again, you'll see by looking at the dollar numbers and the percent increase compared to the raw dollar number of general services, a decrease in general services has a larger impact on the budget than the cumulative increases in the other four areas. But there's no question, things are getting more expensive. People, items, cars, fuel, everything. Ambulances, yeah. Sore subject with Tony and I.
That's why I brought it up.
Thank you. Here's some noteworthy, just expense data. Healthcare costs, we were up, in 4.5% this year. It was 2.77 last year. The annual average for healthcare cost increases nationwide is about 7%. We've been able to beat that average in all but I think 1 year in the last 6 or 7. 1 year we had an 11% increase, you may recall. But other than that, we've been below the national trend line consistently. 4.5% is more than the group wanted to do. By the way, we don't just pick that number out of the air. The insurance pool hires a actuary that looks at usage data, looks at drug costs, looks at medical costs, and they do very comprehensive analysis. Say you're likely to see 4.5% increase in your cost this year. They actually thought that we would end up, I think, was it 5 or 6% increase in our costs, but because the trust has been managed so well, we have enough surplus that we can take some of that increase out of the surplus. I think the trust is sitting on about $12.5, $13 million at the moment. Our Arizona State Retirement system is remaining around 12. It's slightly less than last year. That's the amount the county contributes. PSPRS, I love to give a little history here. So we paid our debt down to 0. Over the next months of that year, it rose to where our payment, we were at 97% funded. Once we used all we paid it off in cash. This year it slipped to about 94% full funded. The industry average, our standard is 80% full funded. So we're well above the industry standard, but there's some slippage. And so you'll adopt today as part of the budget, a PSPRS funding formula. And they take that amount that we're under, which is about, I think, $50,000. And they amortize that over a 20-year period. So it's like paying a small loan off on a small interest rate. But you can see our contribution rates have steadily gone down. We were our lowest last year and bumped up a little bit this year. If the market performs well, you can expect to see that 20.39% to go down in subsequent years. Some of that is also affected when we bring in lateral transfers that have got a lot of years in the system because you have fewer years to get them ready to retire. So that's a little bit more expensive. But on the whole, we're very healthy there. The elected official retirement, you're not seeing much movement in that. The fund is becoming healthier, but it's primarily because the fund manager said we're not lowering the contribution rate. It's a closed system. We're not getting new people in to fund it. And so it's got to be funded somewhere. So essentially what they're saying is entities are used to paying about 70%. We're going to keep it at about 70%. And that will pay down quicker that deficit in the employee or the elected official retirement contribution, so that we're not paying interest against ourselves for 20 years. So that rate I don't expect to change very much over the next few years. And my math is exactly backward there. 7.7 is a little higher than 7.44. Sorry about that. Ron, I'm surprised you didn't catch me on it.
Sorry.
We do receive $250,000 every year from the state to help cover this cost as well. We've covered a lot of this data before. We're not standing up new programs that don't have funding, permanent funding behind them to keep it going. We are, for example, moving one of our assigned deputies into a school resource officer setting. But we've got United Way funding for that. School's paying for some of that, and we can still fund that deputy on our own if we need to. So it allows us to be in a solid foundation going forward, which moves us to we had those numbers last year. The general fund was at 111 and the overall FTEs was 168. As Renee went through and looked at it, we realized we don't have 111 positions in the general fund, and we don't have 168 overall. These are the actual numbers. That reflects in a couple slides more of how that shows up in our budget. You've seen the final budget forms is the schedule A, B, C, and D. They're broken into A is the summary. B is our property tax calculations. They're near the front of your budget book. Schedule C is our revenue. Schedule D is where we transfer from one fund to another. Schedule E is our expenses, and then F and G are just reshuffling those either by employees or by departments and where the funds are with the attorney or the road department and so forth. We can cover those if you'd like to in greater detail. We covered those during the budget development process. Those are the tools that Renee and Austin and I use to develop the budget. They're required by the Auditor General to use those forms. Fortunately, they come with the formulas in them. Do you want to cover any of that more in depth?
No,
Okay.
not me. I think we've covered it.
Okay. Yeah,
A
there's
little
different-
bit, right, Renee?
Yeah, we spent a little time.
I think Renee's done a stellar job.
He has, and I'll be honest with you, having done it myself, by the time you hit this point, that all you see is numbers, and they're just spreadsheet after spreadsheet. We adopt an unassigned fund balance policy. In layman's terms, you might call this a rainy day fund. It doesn't actually operate that way. And this was set up many, many years ago with the guidance of the Auditor General saying you can stick money away and you're not going to use it. You're not going to budget it. And just so in some budgets, you can say, well, I'm going to pad this budget by 5% and that one by 10% and so forth. We don't do that in the same way here. This allows us to stick away, and we've moved from a $4 million reserve to a $5 million reserve. That's a 20% increase. Because as we say, everything is going up. This would allow us, if we didn't have a single drop of revenue, we could keep the doors open for a little over 3 months. That wouldn't be how it works. And you'll see as you go through, so I know that Chairman Gomez and Supervisor Campbell are familiar with it, but we have trigger points. And we look at these and say, well, if our revenues drop below this thing, we're going to start looking and saying, what's happening? Why is it happening? Is it a temporary blip? Is it not? And you've all become accustomed. We review that with you every month where our sales taxes are. We'll do it again today. But this allows us to put money away and then gives us a very regimented, very methodical, deliberative process to use that money if it ever gets to the point where we need it, if revenues continue to trend downward. This personnel are the PSPRS, which is essentially our police pension. Again, it shows how much our assets are, 10,116,000. Accrued liability is 10,459,000. So that deficit of 342 will be amortized over the next 20 years. And I guessed wrong on the amount of that we were under. So, but this essentially is a policy we're required to adopt that allows PSPRS to amortize our outstanding unfunded balance over the 20-year period. This is part of the budget adoption as well. We've gone over the county improvement, capital improvement plan before. We've identified the projects we're going to work on this year in tier 1. We added one thing to it. So these are not new. We've gone over these several times, and so we'll adopt them as part of the budget as well. This allows us again to set up a fund that we can use for capital projects and not have to worry about it being used for the day-to-day operations. This, by the way, is separate. These funds are separate from the money we've been using for our current capital projects, which are the federally sourced dollars that we received during the COVID period. We adopt a resolution that essentially implements the motions that you will, that I give you proposed motions for. This is what's signed by the chairman and the clerk, and then this is what becomes the official adoption of the budget. We will do the same through the Public Health Services District, and then there's one thing I want to cover that I didn't cover this, and I apologize for not doing so, but one of the things that has made our budget work this year, in other words, we were able to hold property taxes as low as we were, particularly our primary property tax, and that is that we're in a very solid cash position. How do we get there? Structural changes. We've been able to look at individual portions of the budget, but we've also there's been more favorable revenue than we expected. And like I say, during our budget review in the next item, I'll show you that we've exceeded by almost $1 million what we thought we'd get in sales tax revenue. Most of that's state shared sales tax revenue. But having such a strong cash position has allowed us to, overfund our capital improve, not our capital, but our reserve funds. We were able to stick away in capital funds. Essentially, we can beef up and stabilize what we've been doing without having to hit the taxpayer for more property tax. As Renee and I went through this and we did our analysis on this, we realized that we don't need to go ask our taxpayers for more money. We were just one of only 4 counties this year that actually lowered our property tax levy. In other words, the amount of money we're going to bring in. And that's primarily because of sound fiscal policies that you set and consistent application of those policies over time. And I need to add an extremely cooperative county family. I hear about other counties where you have foot stomping and tantrum throwing. We don't have it here. Last year when we couldn't do across the board market adjustments, our elected officials, department heads understood why. They buy into it. And as we've sat down with them this year and last year, they understand where we're going. As they've raised issues, as they've raised needs, we've worked cooperatively with every one of our electeds and our department heads to meet those needs. In some cases, we've been able to lower some line items. In other cases, we've been able to raise some line items, shift budget priorities. A budget is nothing more than a financial reflection of an entity's priorities. And this year we've been able to do that cooperatively. So I want to shout out to our partner and other elected officials, our department heads. It has been an outstanding process. And we wouldn't realize cash surpluses if it wasn't for that cooperative way we've approached this. And so I cannot say enough about that. And I appreciate the partnerships. It's starting to feel more and more like a family that works through their challenges cooperatively rather than antagonistically. And I appreciate that a great deal. With that, I'll answer any questions you have for the budget.
Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Thank you for your efforts, you, both of you, all of you.
Yeah.
And for the electeds and everyone's.
And we've always said that the county is a family and we like to take care, and I appreciate the fact that everybody was coming to the table and open-minded and worked through resolutions, or, because budget is sometimes, very difficult.
It is.
But this has been a very smooth budget year. And so that probably goes to thanking all of you and Renee and Austin.
Yeah, Renee's done all the heavy lifting on the numbers. Austin done most of the heavy lifting on working with the different offices and so forth. And I appreciate that. They've allowed me to view it from a little bit higher elevation, and that's very helpful. It is difficult when you're in the weeds to both look at it as a policy as well as in the weeds. And I have so appreciated working with these two gentlemen this year. They have really done the lion's share of the hard lift.
Yeah, and it's also credit to these guys being here that it's kind of it's becoming routine, where you're not having to scratch your head and say, okay, what am I going to do with this? You just done it day in and day out for the last few years and everything, and you caught on so well that it's working like a well-oiled machine. So,
and we're
kudos
just
to all of you.
not vulnerable to to the loss of any one individual. We can manage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
It's great.
good job.
Awesome.
with that, there's a whole other series of motions.
Yeah.
Am I ready to move with those?
Do we have to ask for public comment again, since we are in?
No, you had the public hearing already.
Okay.
And I apologize. I didn't bring my thing.
Oh,
I
I've got
was
it.
lost there for a minute.
Well,
I
yeah,
left my book downstairs.
there's more in the corner over there.
All right.
I move.
Yep.
I move that we adjourn out of the special board meeting for the budget and go back into the regular board meeting.
Well, we need to actually do the motions
Oh,
to adopt the budget first. So if you would withdraw that motion,
I
there's
withdraw
another
that.
whole set of sheet of motions. Do you have those in front of you as
I'll
well?
I withdraw that motion and I'll go with these motions, which we have.
So we had first setting the primary
Yes.
property tax rate.
Go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead. Oh,
Go ahead, Ron.
we'll alternate, how about
Okay.
that? I move to set the fiscal year 2025-2026 primary property tax rate for Greenlee County at 0.8036 per $100 of assessed value.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made in second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered.
I move that we set the fiscal year 2025-2026 public health district service district tax rate at 0.2500 per $100 of assessed value.
And I'll second that.
Motion has been made in second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I call for vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's have it, so ordered.
I move to set the fiscal year 2025-2026 flood control district rate at 0.2400 per $100 of assessed value.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made in second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I call for vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered.
Pursuant to ARS 42-17105, I move to adopt the fiscal year 2025-2026 Greenlee County budget as follows. To adopt the general budget in the amount of $22,134,729, and the total budget in the amount of $41,569,789. This includes the flood control budget in the amount of $569,931, and the public health services district budget in the amount of $2,742,588. This motion includes the passage of the resolution for the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2026. The passage of the resolution with the Board of Directors of the Greenlee County Public Health Services District regarding the fiscal year 2026 tax levy and rate, the adoption of the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement plan, the fund policy, and public safety personnel retirement system pension funding policy.
And I'll second that.
It has been made in second. Further discussion? None, call for vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, so ordered. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, we'll move into our next item of business. Here, County Administrator and Bianca Bissonette, come to the board, county and state budget and issue.
On the state side, again, the state finally quit. They budgeted, they're off. They're now, all explaining what happened in their own way. That's typical. We are in the process at CSA and through the counties of proposing different legislative agenda items that we would want on the county's proposal. We have until August, I think it's 4th, to submit those, maybe August 8th. I'm not hearing anything from Greenlee County. As I talked to my other small county partners, we're not hearing anything at this point. So we will receive, unless you have something you'd like to develop in the next week or so, we will listen to proposals from other counties and go into October, that annual conference, to decide on the state county supervisors association agenda. What I pulled up before you is our final, we received our final disbursement for the month of June. We received that in July. And so you can see that blows up just a little bit. You can see that our last, and starting backwards, starting with the county half-cent sales tax, we ended at 123,000. On the whole, we did not meet our projections. The county half-cent sales tax is more volatile. You'll see, for example, back in April, we dropped to $82,000 for 1 month. Our projection for the year was to get $120,000 a month. We exceeded it some months, we got less than that in more months. And our actual realized amount was 117,810 per month. And that reflects down here in this colored area. We projected 1.440 million and received only 1.413 and change. So we ended on the year $26,282 shorter than our projection. On the whole, that's pretty good guessing from a year ago. Pretty good projection. As we move to the state shared sales side of it, we were projecting 425,000 a month, and we realized 493,000 per month. For a total, as we reflected down here, we expected 5.1 million. We ended up with 5.9 and change, for a total of 816,000 more than we projected. We raised our projections for FY26. We may well exceed those projections again if the economy holds. There's still enough volatility throughout the economy in tariff policy, in domestic policy, as well as the tension between the Fed and the administration, that we don't know what will look like by the end of the calendar year, let alone a year from now. So we took a conservative approach. You'll see, adding the two together, we ended up a total of $789,000, almost $790,000 above projections on our shared sales tax revenue for the year. On the whole, that allows us to live easily within our means. We budgeted on the lower amount. If we get more, great. That'll affect future budgets and what we are able to do or what tax rates we're able to cut. And certainly willing to stand for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calendar.
Calendar of events, Bianca?
Tomorrow, the 23rd, emergency school start. Going into August, we have a board meeting on August 4th. And that starts at 2. It's the presentation from CSA. They'll be presenting their annual report. Our regular scheduled meeting, our board meeting will be August 6th. And we'll set tax rates that day. Duncan school start, the rural forum also starts that day. And continues to the 8th.
First board meeting, August 6th. I thought we moved why am I thinking we moved that?
We have a short meeting with CSA on the 4th.
On Monday, the 4th.
Yeah,
So
but
we'll
on
have
the 5th. On the 5th. Our board meeting is still scheduled for Wednesday? I have an old calendar saying that we moved it to the 5th.
And since we published that in the paper, we have to hold that date.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
county managers on the 8th, or I guess our third board meeting, our second regular board meeting is on August 19th. No CSA meeting for the month of August, and I didn't see an ECO meeting date either.
There won't be CSA or ECO. ECO may be a phone call, but there won't be a regular one.
September 1st is Labor Day. Our offices will be closed. So our board meeting will be that Wednesday, the 3rd. County managers on the 12th. Our second board meeting, September 16th. ECO and small counties on the 17th. CSA on the 18th. And our county fair does start that day on the 18th and runs through the 21st.
It's County Fair.
County, where did I say counties? Or counties, well. And that's all I have, unless we need to add.
Do you have anything to add?
No, not this time.
Okay. Bianca? Item of business consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second that motion.
And then the main second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have it so. Supervisor reports.
Just quickly, well, I guess 2 weeks ago, was able to attend the NACO conference in Philly. Serving on the Ag and Rural Affairs Steering Committee, a lot of great information, a lot of policies were discussed. To get the NACO's representation and support on through the legislature. Anyway, it was a good conference and got to see Philly a little bit in the evenings and anyway, it was a successful conference. That's all that I have.
I joined also in the Philadelphia conference at NACO and learned a lot from the public lands group and got to sit on some workshops. I learned very much, got to meet other people and strategize the future. So a great experience for me. Thank you.
Okay, I also attended the NACO conference on the community employment workforce development. We had 18 resolutions that we ran through and approved 16 of them. Approved 2 of them, and which I didn't memorize in my mind to share them all with you, but they'll be online and good conference. The weather kind of held up on us. It wasn't as muggy and ugly as it was supposed to be. So it turned out to be a good visit of Philadelphia. That's it. That's all I have. So I will adjourn this meeting. Find something if they got to go. There's a lot of things coming down.
Oh.